The meeting will now officially go ahead and we'll call to order. And we'll go ahead and we'll turn over to our superintendent to set up our public hearing.
Yes, sir. First item on the agenda, as you see, is our Texas Academic Performance Report, otherwise known as TAPER, from 2023. So I believe Dr. Janice Jordan and Dr. Brenda Ward are going to kick us off, along with Dr. Renee Barajas with the financial piece. And then once the presentation is complete, we would like to ask you as board president to open for public comment and or the forum to follow.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Tonight, I'll be sharing with you the 22-23 Academic Performance Report, as Dr. Kraft mentioned, and we do this each year. As you're aware, school districts in Texas are required to publish this report and hold a public meeting. So this entire report is published on our website. For the 22-23 school year, our district was deemed accredited. Distinctions such as AF ratings, special education compliance, those are still being held due to the injunction from the state. This here is the PEIMS Financial Standard Report. You'll see that it shows our revenues, our expenditures, our student allocations. As is typical, you'll see that payroll is the largest expenditure. And just as a shout out to Renee and his team, the district did once again receive an accreditation of superior achievement from the FIRST rating system. This right here is what you guys looked at the ISO training. It shows the performance of students up against some preset goals. It's important to know that the math and reading goals are set at the masters, at the meets, not the approaches level. Great news here. You see that if you take a look at the different color bars, you see the state versus Northside, and you'll see that Northside outperformed the state in all areas, except for a few spots in mathematics. Now this piece right here, I don't know, Ray, if you want to comment on this piece.
No, only that the one number that stands out is actually one that we've spoken to and started off this summer with felony controlled substance. That refers to THC and vape usage, which we have a plan in place. Be that as it may, you do see a number that stands out. These are last year's numbers, and even though we put some initiatives in place for this year, don't know how much of an effect it'll have for next year. I guess at this time next year we'll be able to speak to that, but that's what that number reflects.
Perfect. And so this next slide shows about our graduates. So 46% of our seniors who graduate went to an institute of higher education. So we've seen that improve. It is important to know that this is from the 2021 graduates because this is a year delayed. And then the other side, you see the numbers of students and what their GPA was. So for the 2021 graduates, 28% of students from Northside had a 3.5 GPA or higher. So that's like a B+ and higher. Okay, as mentioned, we do this every year, and so the full report, you can find it under required postings on our website. That's it. Any questions?
Okay.
We'll be glad to try to answer any questions that the board may have. Like say, the more comprehensive report will be posted to our webpage, and so we can definitely take a deeper dive if the board so chooses, or like I say, try to answer any questions.
All right, Trustee Harrell.
No, I was just going to mention that we went into this in detail at the EISO training, and so Janice and her team were able to really answer our questions, particularly about concerns around math and continued progress and growth, and then the changes in the accountability system. So anyway, that's this past year, and we'll see what the next year holds. But you answered all the questions really well for those who were there, so thanks.
And I anticipate there are going to be even more changes in recent conversations, particularly with the commissioner on a weekly or monthly, commissioner call, particularly in and around how CCMR is graded, if you will. So more changes on the horizon, I'm afraid.
Trustee Freeman?
Yeah, my comment, we talked a lot in our, the training that we had, and thank you to you and Brenda Ward. Is Brenda here?
She's not. She'll be back in March with the actual goals that you'll approve.
Okay, I'm just going to say, thank you for the detail in which we went through the reports on. The one thing I would, there's a lot of people here, and I know that the state's still holding the official scores, but there are going to be a lot of questions. This was this past year, we had a STAR redesign.
That's right.
And I know that we have attempted, I thought there was a paper or something that was posted explaining some of the redesign. Can you, in case there's anybody here that wants to go visit that, I don't think we need to get, there were so many different changes in the STAR.
Yes, we have some things on our website, and we also, there's lots on the TEA website. Basically, the exam is longer, it's more difficult, and students have to get more answers correct in order to meet certain levels of performance. So our teachers, and they've been practicing with the new models, so we're hopeful.
And I think it's fair to say, too, regarding CCMR and the challenges that we had with the most recent test on the CCMR, and that please help me explain it, but essentially the standards changed in the arrears. So our kids have already taken the test, and then they changed the standards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you explain that?
Sure,
too, as
yeah.
well?
So CCMR is a year behind. It's a year delayed. And so particularly this past year, and this is, again, part of the contention or litigation in the sense that the standards moved, the standards changed, but yet they're being applied to a class of graduates that have already left Northside ISD. So that's a big aspect. The other thing in regards to college, career, military readiness is it really only applies to high school students. For elementary and middle school, the current accountability system is really in and around a STAR assessment, or assessments, I should say, in the core content areas. And so there's really not CCMR applied to elementary and middle schools. And even that being said, I anticipate that there will be pretty significant changes to how CCMR is gauged. And again, it's a year in reflection. So while we would love to have the ground rules, so to speak, to be able to positively impact change and make adjustments systematically, we really don't have that advantage or benefit as it pertains to CCMR, seeing that it's a year delayed or year behind. Similar to our financial data that is a part of the 2022-2023 taper report. It's more of an autopsy report.
Right. The parameters changed, and then they applied it to the test that the kids already took.
Correct.
And they significantly raised the standard from CCMR from 60 to 88, so a 28% to get the same grade.
Yeah, so it was,
It was after the
much
fact.
more challenging to meet a level of performance, especially that we were accustomed to as a result of that 28-point increase in standards. And while we're all for high standards and maintaining high standards, we really need to have an idea of how are we going to be assessed, and what does the accountability standards look like well in advance, which this past year school districts were at a significant disadvantage.
Right. Thank you, and I appreciate that explanation, and I think it's important for people to know that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions from the board? And having heard both the report as well as some of the board commentary, I do want to offer, this was a little bit different in terms of a public opportunity to speak than we normally have. Is there anybody, do we have any public comments to what was stated? Yeah, just on the tape. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, not the other parts. Yeah. Don't get ahead of me. All right, good. Just want to make sure. Just want to make sure opportunity there. Okay. And I'll just add one final thing, because it's mentioned the training. So our board is required. Actually, all board members across the state are required to get 3 hours of training that we just went through related to student performance, among other things that we have to get also. So that's where they mentioned went in depth. We really had an in-depth conversation. I will add one thing during that also, that one of the things we also realize, and as our superintendent says, it's important for us to know accountability, how we're held, et cetera, but you know, us being Northside, we take it much further beyond that. So we consider everything even much further than what you heard here when it comes to looking at our students and what we really need. So they want to point that out also. Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you, Dr. Jordan. All right. Now we'll go to our superintendent's report. Dr. Kraft.
So there are so many things and celebrations to mention. And I know I'm going to leave a group or someone out, so I hate to really even begin, but I do want to brag just a little bit. We had the opportunity to celebrate O'Connor High School's jazz band. They were one of the featured jazz bands at the most recent TMEA command performance. This is an application process, and they truly were among one of the few jazz bands that was recognized. The TMA conference, I didn't realize the size and magnitude. We're looking at like 8,000 music educators from really across the nation. It's actually the largest music conference in the continental United States now. So they had the opportunity to perform and did so magnificently on the 9th. We've had great signing days to include Holmes High School this morning. I know Ms. Saldana and I were, and Dr. Duran were at Holmes High School to celebrate Isaac Martinez, but one of numerous collegiate athletes that have signed. He'll be going on to William Wood University, actually, for to help with the inaugural kickoff of the football program there. So it was great to see his success. Thank you again for your support of PTA Founders Day. That was also a pretty tremendous performance by not only our students, but just community-wide support. On February 1st, it's hard to believe, it seems like that was years ago, but it was actually just the beginning of this month that we're getting ready to wrap up. We celebrated Random Acts of Kindness the week of the 14th to the 21st, and so again, I appreciate Kim Ridgely's whole child department efforts and their support of events across the district. Had the opportunity to learn more about Root Ed. Genevieve Sigloski, who you may recall, you nominated to potentially fill a board vacancy on the Bexar County Appraisal District, but she is the founder, i.e. CEO, if you will, of Root Ed, which is really a homegrown support network to promote neighborhood schools. They do so free of charge, and like I say, the promotion of public ed is their entire mission, and it was great to visit with her. Thank you again for your support of the mid-year graduation. Always exciting to celebrate with families. We had 97 total graduates graduate at the sports gym on the 12th, and I think you'll agree it was just great to see them receive their diplomas and move on to the next chapter in their lives. Had the opportunity to visit with Hoffman Elementary School on Valentine's Day. That was a lot of fun. They had Read Your Heart Out Day, and the pre-K students, I will tell you, and kindergarten students, they were tugging at my heart. But it was great. It was really a great time. This was before I had to rush to. I shouldn't say rush. Expedite a trip to meet with the San Antonio Public Relations Association. I would have just rather stayed right at Hoffman Elementary School with pre-K and kindergarten students, but no, it was a great time. I learned a lot more about Destination Imagination on the 15th. We had a parent showcase at Forest Elementary before they moved on to their DI state competition, and we have some pretty magnificent but also really creative students at all levels. And so it was great to learn more about their projects, their problems that they were solving, and of course their product, because it is a product and it's all student initiated. So really enjoyed that opportunity. This week is Texas Public Schools Week, so we are recognizing the work of public educators across the state, and really it's actually also National Public Education Week. That being said, this past weekend we had Warren High School place second in the state academic decathlon meet. They were just 150 points off. So had the pleasure of awarding medals at the award ceremony at University of Incarnate Word, and then also Health Careers and O'Connor competed in an invitational meet in Frisco. Evan Crowley is our 50-meter 6A state champion. He is the gold medalist. Get this, he swam the 50-meter in 19.89 seconds. I was sitting here thinking to myself, I don't know that I can sprint 50 meters in 19.89 seconds at this point. So congratulations to Evan. Of course, you've probably been tracking the basketball. We have two games this evening. The boys are in the regional semifinal, and they're matching up. In fact, they're playing right now as we speak. So we have Harlan versus O'Connor. That game tipped off, at 5:30, and then we have John Jay and Brennan at 7:30. And of course, on the girls' side, it was really exciting at the sports gym this past weekend. We had Clark and Brennan in the regional final game. It's always hard to have two Northside teams, but went to double overtime. And it was really just a game that both teams, it was such a proud moment because they just were so persistent. They both wanted to move on to the state tournament badly. And of course, Clark being the defending state champion, Ms. Saldana and I were there. We were prepared to award trophies, and we went to the first overtime, and then at the buzzer we went to the second overtime. It was almost one of those things we just needed to go back and sit down, but it was a lot of fun. So good luck to the Brennan Lady Bears. They'll play at 8:30 at the Dome. They face off with South Grand Prairie, and we hope that they're able to bring home another state championship. We also had a VASE, which is the Visual Arts Scholastic Event, a state competition, a competition to lead to state. So we had 36 artists qualify for the state VASE, which we're very, very proud of. They'll compete at the end of April in San Marcos, so more to come in that regard. I want to mention Library Palooza real quickly. That was also on Saturday. Phenomenal event. Hadn't obviously had the opportunity to see Library Palooza, but we brought in a lot of guest artists. They had fantastic messages to send to our young writers and, of course, future writers and readers. And so I want to just, again, appreciate Cheryl Stoic as well as Lucy Podmore. They organized the entire event, and it's a rather large venue. So great turnout with, like I say, middle school and high school students. And then just a reminder, I know that this message will probably be received a little bit late, but this week concludes early voting, and of course March 5th is Election Day, and so we're just encouraging everyone to get out and vote, make sure they have the opportunity to exercise the right to vote, because there are some important topics on the horizon as it pertains to public education. So with that being said, I believe we do have a video moment. As you all know, this month is Black History Month, and in celebration and recognition, students at Taft High School put together a celebration of accomplishments, cultures, and artistry through the art, dance, poetry, singing, and much more. So tonight's video moment showcases Taft High School's special talents.
1, 2, play the here.
It's after school on a Friday evening,
Here,
and these Taft High School students could go home, but they'd rather be here, rehearsing for their Black History Month presentation.
Are you ready? 5, 6, 7, 8.
And it's not your typical performance.
We like to think of it as a celebration of Black accomplishments. We have dancers, we have poets, we have singers, we have anything that you can think of. This year we're adding a fashion show element, which is really interesting. Energy!
Taft Theater Technical Director Esther Burton says they like to keep things different.
It's very much improvised. It's very much performance art. It allows the kids to be as creative as they can.
When you're on the grass, lying on the ground.
So it's really fun to be able to see them really build this from the ground up.
All women have to fight with death to keep
their children, which is something that you can't really do with a regular play.
I think my favorite part is the dancing and definitely the poetry because I love to write.
Not that we don't appreciate the stories told in roots, but how can you teach us about the African family tree and neglect to mention the fruits?
It's a chance for students like Fatima Jifota to show off their skills and express themselves like a superstar.
Not Beyonce, but something close to that.
But beyond the spotlight, there's a story here, one that needs to be told.
It makes you proud of what you come from. It brings you back to your community.
To bring the history that Black Americans have and to teach the artistry that these students are able to put together and create. It just comes out as this beautiful performance and celebration of life, celebration of culture.
Well, congratulations again to Taft. And there are, like I say, so many wonderful things going on across the district. It's really hard for me to keep track. But we're very, very proud, and like I say, more successes forthcoming this spring, especially as we come back from a spring break here in just a little over a week. So with that being said, that concludes Superintendent's report, and be glad to try to answer any questions if there are any.
Good. All right. Thank you, Dr. Kraft. All right. So next we'll go to board members. I'm sure they'll also identify some accomplishments and recognitions. And Dr. Duran.
So I want to also give a shout out and thank the PTA for inviting us all to their Founders Day event. But quick shout out to all of the art students. They had beautiful work on display from a variety of campuses. And then the culinary students actually prepared the hors d'oeuvres and were serving us. And just talking to them, I was very inspired by some of their desires to be chefs and moving forward, what they're going to do with everything that they're learning. They also honored our fellow trustee here, Gerald Lopez, so shout out to him for everything he's doing with our senior programs in the summer and having donations for backpacks to help those grandparents that are actually raising their children. So that was amazing. Shout out to, thank you to the coaching staff at Holmes High School for inviting me today for their college signing day for Isaac Martinez. But a great story, a narrative that I love is that Isaac's mom was actually one of our trustees' students. And if it weren't for Miss Saldaña, she wouldn't have finished high school. So I love that she gave her a shout out as well, because this is a generational journey for Isaac to be going to college, and he's fulfilling a dream that the parents wish they could have done. But through people like Miss Saldaña and others that have supported their journey, their entire family was very grateful. I also want to congratulate Mateo again, the youngest mariachi in the world, in the history. He actually opened up the Noche de Vaqueros again and performed that night. He's our pride. As far as our mariachi program students, they're doing amazing things in the community. And shout out to the rodeo and our FAA students and our ag students, because they're out there working really hard. The rodeo it requires a lot of volunteers, and a lot of them are our students and our employees. So thank you all for making that event. And I'm learning every year a little bit more about all the work that it takes to put that event on and how important it is for folks to highlight their work once a year. So thank you, and shout out to the rodeo and those students.
Good. Thank you, Trustee Duran. Trustee Saldana?
I, like Dr. Kraft, have gone to a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to leave out a lot of what he brought in. But I do want the trustees to know that Carol, Bobby, and I went to Grassroots last week, and I will be on the Legislative Action Committee again. But that's to legislate and hope that we can convince legislators to support public education. So Carol was responsible for a lot of the meeting, and thank you so much. Kelly, thank you for being there. It got to the point where when we were discussing items, they said, if you have any questions, contact Northside, because Kelly is doing such a good job with our governance, and so we thank you for being there to support us. I also attended, thanks to all of you, the leadership conference in Corpus. And this week was my turn to talk about my school district at the conference. There are 33 school districts that are being represented when we go to our leadership TASB. And it was my turn to talk about Northside. And so I went through, we have 9 minutes to talk, and that's it. But when I told them about our goal cart, you know, they kind of, yeah, you know, they have a similar program. But then I said, and we also have it for our veterans. All of a sudden, all these pens were going. That's a great idea. So I want you all to know that somebody else appreciates us taking care of our veterans. Also, I know that last month was Trustee Recognition Month, and we were just honored so deeply by so many organizations, but I think there were a couple of them that we didn't even know about until after the meeting was over. But the secondary teachers, we thank you, principals, we thank you all, and the Brandeis Student Council, thank you for recognizing us. And I think our art projects were just simply, you know, without anybody being able to say anything, they were beautiful. I also, before I go on, I would like to recognize, I have a guest here today. She is a student. She has already graduated. She is a nurse, but she's taking more courses through Texas Tech. Get your guns up. And so Aurora Grothy, we thank you for being here. She is coming to see what board meetings are like, and so we thank you for being here. Special Olympics is going on this week. I was there yesterday for the opening ceremony, and it is so neat for them to carry their torch and light an actual torch. So that was really, and it's going on all week. Library Palooza, you're right. It was beautiful. The college scholarship signing, the Founders Day, mid-year graduation. The one thing he hasn't mentioned are the Cast Teach projects. We were at Cast Teach and saw a lot of projects that the kids were working on, and we had to vote on them. So we'll find out pretty soon whose project won. Brandeis, Mr. Fuentes, the theater arts teacher, they did the musical, and it was beautiful, Little Mermaid, and they had the full orchestra and just great. And then, of course, our basketball, by the way, I have the score.
No, you're not watching.
I'm not allowed to say it, okay? O'Connor's winning right now. But thank you to all our coaches. I know at this point, a lot of people may not realize it, but these teams that are playing right now, they're playing a lot more time and giving up a lot. The coaches are giving up a lot more hours because everybody else is done, but we've got these 5 teams that are still going. So we thank our coaches for their dedication.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Dunn. And you're allowed to say it. I just mess with you. All right.
Well, it's the end of the third quarter. And it is 43-30 O'Connor.
Okay. All right. Sounds familiar. Okay. All right. Trustee Freeman?
Thank you, Bobby. Well, Miss Saldana, I know you talked about the Little Mermaid at Brandeis High School. What she neglected to mention, and I had the opportunity to go, the kids did great, and I know that you wanted to highlight everybody's performance in that show, but her granddaughter played Ariel. The most beautiful voice, and everybody did a good job. But you are allowed to brag on your granddaughter. What is her name again? I don't want to.
Mackenzie Moberly. She is a redhead right now, real redhead, because she had to have red hair for the play, and so this week they're trying to get her back to her.
She played the part so well. She looked just like Ariel as we know it in the Disney show. And Mr. Fuentes and everybody just did a really great job. Just a reminder too, Steuben Elementary is having their elementary carnival this coming Saturday, and I'm always reminded by that because the PTA comes to my house and puts up this big old boot that says you've been stomped, and some other reminders. So, Steuben Family Carnival is this Saturday from 11 to 3. Carnival games, auction, food, drinks, all of that. And this was a busy month. One of the neatest things I happened to have been able to participate is my husband and I went to D.C. The end of last week. We came back yesterday, and he was being honored in D.C. by his profession for a Distinguished Service Award. But when I knew we were going, I had been in contact with Barry and Miss Boken, and she's the principal of Sotomayor High School. As you all know, we name our high schools after Supreme Court justices. So I knew I was going. I wanted to take some swag from the school to leave off to Justice Sotomayor. I had fortunately had the opportunity to contact the justice's new senior judicial assistant, which has changed since we've had our dedication. And her name happens to be Renee Alexander. Fantastic, most welcoming person. She tried to actually arrange an opportunity for me to meet the justice, but they had been in session, and they had a very busy schedule, and she was going to be out of town on Friday. But in lieu of that, Miss Alexander arranged for my husband and I a private tour in the Supreme Court, and we had the opportunity to go back into the justice's chamber. And I got to tell you, on the way into where her office is were glass cabinets, and in the cabinets there were displays of various things that actually kids had made. So I know that I got with Barry, and I know that I had taken a picture of the school. It was a framed picture of the school. And Renee had called me after she spoke with the justice. I guess we talked yesterday. She told me that the justice was going to put it in a display case. I know Barry and Miss Boken and the justice's assistant, they're going to get together for an opportunity for the kids to at least send something. It's very difficult to send stuff to the Supreme Court because of all the security. But anyway, opened up a new relationship with Justice Sotomayor and the school, and I'm really looking forward to them getting together. It was a very unique opportunity. I know Trustee Harrell had the opportunity to meet Justice O'Connor at the time, and I know that you said that she had just a story. What I had heard, and I guess it was Justice Stevens at one time that had told us when O'Connor and Stevens High School used to play each other, and both justices had their letter jackets in the rooms. They would wear the letter jackets at the time. So anyway, they are both no longer on the court, but hopefully Justice Sotomayor, when we give her letter jacket, she'll be able to wear that with pride too. But anyway, great opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Trustee Freeman. Trustee Harrell?
Thank you. I wanted to just add a couple things to what just about everybody said so far. But Corinne, the grassroots was wonderful. It was for the entire Region 20 area, and so trustees were invited from school districts in that area, and we met at Region 20. The cool thing is we had trustees from Kerrville down to Cotulla, and we had them from Uvalde to Comal. We had Harlandale, Edgewood, North Side, Northeast, and I may be Southwest ISD, yes. And so we did an activity where they were to share their challenges, and it was really called the 8-second ride because we had a rodeo theme. And they were just supposed to say their name, their school district, and their challenge, which we had timed about 8 seconds, like a bull ride, right? And the music would play, and you would walk around, and when it stopped, you were supposed to turn and talk. Well, the talking just kept going on and on and on. And we go, oh, the music's starting, time to go. And so everyone was really, really sharing really critical issues that faced rural, urban, suburban, and combinations in between, which was very powerful. By the end of the night, we had vetted all kinds of challenges in the state confronting public ed. The cool thing was we had to decide on 5 that represented the Region 20 area. And TASME, by the way, the Texas Association of School Boards, is doing this in all of the regions of Texas, and then we'll come out with a comprehensive top 5 and really do some deep dives into it. But the number one area of most concern and challenge and opportunity at the same time for Region 20 was teacher recruitment, retention, and increasing salaries. Hallelujah. And that was unanimous. The second one was increasing the basic allotment. We'll all agree that's awesome. Number 3 was opposition to vouchers. Number 4 was school safety and security. And number 5 was mental health. And so we were all in agreement, and we were all better because we had met each other, and it was a very cohesive and I think collaborative evening. The 2 hours went by really fast. In fact, people kept talking afterwards, and so anyway. But thank you all for coming. That was really super. And there's going to be a virtual one. You can check the TASB website. I don't know when the virtual one. You can still get your input in if you missed it. And there's, that's an opportunity to meet trustees from all over the state of Texas. But somehow the Region 20 area was really small that night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. One other thing, what I keep seeing with our fine arts, like Little Mermaid, I usually take my grandkids, but my 88-year-old mom wanted to go. And she's going through a Disney phase. So we're watching all kinds of Disney shows. But I took her to Little Mermaid, and it's not just a performance on stage. And your granddaughter was phenomenal, by the way, and her fellow students were magnificent. But I think there were 2 orchestras because it was very long. There were some instruments that had to take turns. There was something about...
They had 2 directors.
2 directors, but something, it was very long. But there was also art, a lot of the fine arts, and there was dancing. So it's not just come watch a play. It's music, it's art, it's the full deal. And to me, the biggest compliment from my 88-year-old mom was, this is better than the Majestic. And I said, oh yeah, and a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper too. So I wanted to thank the Carnahan Elementary School. They invited me to their cultural fest. I did take my grandkids to that. They tried all the foods and loved it and learned and actually they think they're little trustees. They were asking them questions about, how it's made and what languages do you speak there and what's your favorite story. And it was really wonderful. So thank you, Carnahan. The one thing, Carla, I was going to add to the ag program, we have ag mechanics now, and it's another way all schools can be involved. We typically rely on O'Connor carrying the weight because of the animals and all the flora and all the fauna and all that kind of good stuff, but ag mechanics can be anybody, any students from any school. And so I want to kind of revisit that with our district about, we have a lot of kids who can build things with iron and wood and stone, and there were all kinds of fire pits. It was incredible. And so we did have kids from O'Connor this time, but we've had kids from other high schools. We just kind of need to till the soil on that, I think. And then just a big shout out. It was about 5 or 6 days ago, the San Antonio Report ran a wonderful story on our cricket program that started from a grassroots group of Afghanistan students at Clark High School. If you don't know, our Afghanistan population of students is our largest population of students coming from another country than any other. We have 77 different nations. Afghanistan is number 1. And so it was news. It was real eye-opening to me months ago when I found that out. And a large population is at Clark. David Epson is the coach there. He's phenomenal. You heard Melissa and Gerald talk about how Clark and Marshall then got hooked on playing. And then I think we added I think Ross is maybe even kicking the ball around. But anyway, the good thing is I went to an honor next level. It was a program honoring the work of our district and other districts with the Next Level program, and I'll mention that in just a minute. But the person from the city who's in charge of the city parks and recreation is reaching out to David to fund cricket in San Antonio. And because they've been practicing at O.P. Schnabel Park, opportunities at other parks and opportunities for other schools to get involved now that there'll be some funding. So that one article in San Antonio Report about a small program that started at Clark and moved to Marshall will hopefully make an impact on a larger scale. And I don't think that was Dave's intention. He was just trying to get, and as the kids mentioned in the article, that they really felt like they wanted to connect and belong more in the San Antonio community. And so this is one thing that resulted on that. I know we have the trustees the other night at Grassroot from CAS STEM in in Southwest ISD said they're now involved with the Clark and Marshall group. So it's gone outside of Northside, which is really cool. So hats off to David. So then at the next level, celebration, and I wanted to make sure that I explain next level. It's NXL, and hang on, sorry. Next level is a youth opportunity center. It connects 16 to 24-year-olds to resources to help them meet their personal educational and career goals. And they have coaches, and they help form individual plans for students and get them back into the workforce and into school as nobody else can. It's a partnership with the city. It's a partnership with communities and schools. But we were honored, and so I got there just in time to celebrate a little bit. And so I have Mary here, and if it's okay, can I present the award that they honored Northside with, because it really is for Mary, and well, it's for the whole child department. So Kimberly Ridgely, and this is the award they got. It's next level. It's the Path Builder Ally Award. And here's the certificate, the Path Builder, and it's to Northside ISD. But really, it's our counseling department and our whole child, I don't want to say Whole Foods, but our whole child department is the conduit for it. And if you haven't been to go visit, it's phenomenal. Jim's is terrific. He's our Northside representative. But they're changing lives for kids who wouldn't have been able to have that kind of support. So thank you so much. So thank you. And I'll hold you out the way. Thanks. I think that's it. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Trustee Harrell. Trustee Lopez?
Real quick, I know everybody's touched on a lot of the things. I was able to attend. First of all, I just want to say, as trustees, we do what we do because we care about our community. We care about who we represent, and when we get recognized, it's kind of hard for us to accept it, but we accept it anyways. So I wanted to thank the PTA board for that, in working with them and then accepting their award. They do a phenomenal job in our district with our campuses and trying to assist our campuses with field trips and raising money. So my thanks goes out to them for the award that they honored me with, and so thank you so much to them. Also wanted to say, what we do as well as, besides, the awards and stuff, but it's also giving back. I had a chance to participate along with Trustee Salcedo and along with Dr. Kraft. What we do every year, or what we've been doing throughout the years since the pandemic, and that's the partnership with the San Antonio Food Bank and Northside, and that's just distributing food. That time that we went, it was our 90th distribution, and so just to kind of give everybody a heads up, we're coming up to 100. We're coming up to 100, and that's a milestone, because if you were to look at the amount of food that we give and you put that to a dollar amount, it's going to come out to a significant amount. And so the amount of pounds and things like that. And so, John, I was talking to trying to just see maybe what we can do for the 100th, what it is that we can do to make it a blowout and just really celebrate what we can do as a district and all our partners. Because when I was there, we had USAA. And Don does a great job of bringing in all these volunteer groups and companies, and they come ready and energized. And I did want to make a shout out to USA, but as well as to my alma mater. Holy Cross was out there. So they were out there giving out food, and so I got to meet the coach that was doing it, and he brought some of the baseball team out there. So there was a little shout out to him. But you know, it was really great to see our kids out there, especially we had Saul Ross. I think, David, you and I were working with some of our Saul Ross students from the AVID program. And so that was really nice to see them giving back to their community. And so I did want to give a shout out to Next Level as well. Next Level, Jim, who you were talking about, Carol, was very instrumental in helping kick off that program here in Northside, along with Dr. Ridgely. And it's what we call those services that service kids from a certain age group. But now more than ever, we're seeing that the impact is important that they provide to our community, especially Northside, but all around the San Antonio community. So it's great to see that they're really growing and seeing how effective they have become in our community. So it's good to see that. I did want to touch base on David Epson as well. He has worked very hard with that cricket program, and he has really brought it to the level of where it is today, because he has seen the passion in the kids and wanting to be involved and stay involved, and bring a little bit, like you said, culture here to San Antonio. So it's amazing to what he's done, and I want to give a shout out to him and say thank you for what he's been doing. So everybody's doing a phenomenal job here in Northside, and you know, we just don't have enough time to recognize everybody, but once in a while we're able to do that. So thank you to everybody, and as well as thank you for the gifts for our Trustee Appreciation Month. It was well appreciated. It was really appreciated. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Trustee Lopez. Trustee Harrell?
Oh, yeah, I forgot one thing, but I can wait.
No, you go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So this Friday, so when I worked in Northside, and then I left for a while, and then I came back to Northside. And when my kids were little, I opened up Leon Springs Elementary School 100 years ago. So I always kind of lean that way just because we raised our family there, our kids. But they're having their annual boot scootin'. I always want to say boogie, but it's not a boogie. It's boot scootin'. And it's this Friday at 4:30. And it is so much fun. The music, the games, the food. They always have great silent auction. You can kind of do your Christmas shopping early, but it's just so much fun. And it kind of lets the rodeo go a little bit longer, but it's this Friday if anyone wants some free fun.
All right, thank you, Trustee Harrell.
Thanks.
Trustee Salcido?
Yeah, just a quick note on the food bank. I've been doing it every 2 weeks since school started. We service 1,200 families every 2 weeks. So 90, we're going on 90, 1,200, that's quite a bit of families. So
Good.
just.
All right, thank you, Trustee Salcido. Now, let me make sure. Okay, let's bring up a couple more items. So thanks again to our Northside High School Science team. They put on the regional portion of the National Department of Energy Science Book Competition this past week. If you don't know, that is actually a competition with, there's one of few, public, private, and charter and homeschools all participate in that, and Northside runs that for the benefit of all. Anyway, in a close match, man, it was close. Anyway, Basis beat out Brandeis. It was something else to watch that match going on. So Brandeis ended up coming in second. All right, the next one, hot chili competition, thanks to real quick comment, and get Dr. Kraft joining that too. If you go out to these schools with these competitions, you better know the criteria that you're judging on, because man, everybody takes that so serious. But anyway, we enjoyed that part of it too. Also, it's sort of a busy weekend. I hosted the state conference with the Texas Caucus of Black School Board member, the state conference there. We're up in Austin. Just one thing that sort of came out of that, our theme was what's next, and we really did force the speakers. They don't tell us current problems or what you're doing, tell us actually what we should be going to. It was so well received. TASB and others asked, and I got to work on that this week, to say, hey, we need a summary of what was actually recommended out of that, because it was just amazing how y'all worked through that particular process. So that was a really good conference. Yesterday, actually, Sunday, the Delta sorority, and I don't favor any sorority or fraternity. Let me make that clear, because I get in trouble at times. They had a town hall meeting, and it was really it was discussing the importance of what a board member does. Really well received, really well participated. I was on the panel with a couple other trustees, so definitely enjoyed that one. Other thing for our board members, did send out today that we will have the meeting with the Bexar County trustees on March 13th in the evening. And that one is extremely critical. The topics are going to be the UP partnership and their future ready, and how that aligns with what we have as our goals and visions within our trustees and our boards and our superintendents. Rude Ed, did you mention? We did get that invite, so Rude Ed is going to give us more information, go public, as well as we've been asked by TASB to do a presentation on some things we've learned on vaping and what other districts can do also. So we're going to talk about that for SLI. All right, so that's the board member reports. All right, so now we're transition. Y'all look so excited today. After all that. We're next going to go over, we want to get a couple of things straight, though, before we go to our consent agenda item. I just want to make sure we have our citizens that are signed up for that portion after this is coming up. If we read it correctly, we have 9 citizens that have signed up to speak during Citizens to be Heard, okay, which would be our next portion that we have. But we have 3, we believe, are signed up for 8C on our chaplain topic, but we need clarification on one.
Yeah, just a quick clarification. Elizabeth Mertz, is it item 8, which would be policy? Is that? Okay, so item 5, citizens to be heard. Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, of those 10 that are going with citizens to be heard, did anybody else sign up for a specific agenda item? Okay, just to make sure. So we are ready to go to that portion now. And Dr. Kraft. And let me read the rules. So we're going to ask, first of all, that you address your remarks from the podium. Keep your remarks to NISD policy or practice. We do ask that we not make inappropriate remarks about any individual. Again, keep that focused on our policy or practice. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the 2-minute point, our board secretary, Mr. Trustee Lopez, will hold up the yellow card. And will we also have and you also see on the clock too, although you're looking this way, but you can look yellow card and also be on the clock. And then at the 3-minute point, we'll hold up the red card. And we do ask that you wrap up your remarks at that particular point, okay? So Dr. Kraft.
Yes, sir. First signed up, we have Melina Espirita Azacar.
Good evening. I'm Melina Espiritu Azocar, the proud president of Northside AFT. All educators, regardless of their role, deserve to feel safe and protected while carrying out their vital duties, and every student deserves a supportive, compassionate, and safe learning environment. Over the last few weeks, our members have increasingly contacted us with urgency for safety and well-being. They need to be heard, and action needs to be taken when something urgent is brought to the
I apologize. We've got to make sure that sound is, because I want to make sure everybody hears you fully. Why don't we start over? Because, okay, I'm sorry.
Feel better? We're ready?
Yeah, we're ready. That's
All right. Starting over again. All right. All educators, regardless of their role, deserve to feel safe and protected while carrying out their vital duties, and every student deserves a supportive, compassionate, and safe learning environment. Over the last few weeks, our members have increasingly contacted us with the urgency for safety and well-being. They need to be heard, and action needs to be taken when something urgent is brought to the attention of the district leadership. For years now, we have taken member concerns regarding being short-staffed in classrooms, having a revolving door of new IAs that need to be trained, and refusal from the district to properly staff a classroom that is requesting extra support due to student needs. I have handled member cases where teachers have black eyes and bruises when they've been hit, shoved, kicked, and bitten. Some assaults result in surgery, broken bones, and other lasting physical and psychological injuries. Many employees sitting in this room today have faced injuries and have also been ignored when they ask for help or have been made to feel that their assaults is their fault. These injuries mostly occur in our most vulnerable classroom settings and our SE settings. These teachers and IAs are some of the hardest working staff members in our schools and almost always do a job because they love working with their students. I myself am a parent of a child who receives special education services, and I'm very grateful to the staff that have serviced her over the years. We acknowledge that staffing shortages and funding prevent the district from being able to take action in certain areas. We acknowledge that our state and governor have not properly funded our public schools. We acknowledge that Texas continues to be in a $2 billion shortfall in special education funding, and that we continue to stand in solidarity and fight for funding needed and push our state and elected officials to do what is right. But we expect that the district will stand in solidarity with the employees and take care of them. I personally worked with Mr. Fred Jimenez. I recall him walking into my classroom and engaging in conversation daily. I recall the kindness and how much he cared for students and staff. I worked with some of his best friends who are devastated by this loss. He was part of the Northside family, and his loss should not have occurred. Ignoring the loss and refusing to acknowledge the fear and concerns that the employees of Northside have is irresponsible. The needs of the employees in our district can no longer be ignored. We call upon Northside and the state of Texas to make comprehensive changes to ensure that a death like this never happens again. We must prioritize the implementation of proactive strategies and resources to address and prevent violence in our schools, including robust training for staff members and de-escalation tactics on a yearly basis. Adequate staffing levels in all student support positions, particularly those who support students in our self-contained special education classrooms. Widespread access to mental health supports for staff and students and families, comprehensive safety protocols tailored to the unique needs of each classroom setting, and education about assault leave and how employees can access this if they need it. Assault leave should be provided to each case where an assault occurs. We want to believe that the district will do what is right, and we see that the new leadership and the culture of silencing beginning to change under Dr. Kraft's leadership. But Northside must act quicker and listen to the pleas of the employees asking for support. No employee should just be a number that is replaceable. We ask that you all respect each educator and listen and act when they ask for help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right.
Next, we have Rosalind Barris. I believe it's Barris. I apologize if I mispronounced.
Hello. It is a pleasure to be here tonight, but I came for a very sad reason. I am proud to say that I am a 23-year veteran of Northside. I taught for 23 years in special education and other roles, and I know firsthand what it is to be a special education teacher who has many good experiences and some not so good experiences. I cannot impress upon you that school safety starts with you. You are the ones who set the tone, and you set the policies, and you know how to get to people who set policies in Austin. And I know that teachers have a difficult job. They are your first line in your school. If your teachers are not supported, how are you going to get your job, the job of educating these children done? And you can throw all kinds of money at it, but it's not going to keep your teachers in the classroom. I taught forever, and I enjoyed it, and I loved my students. But at night, I expected to go home to my family. And that's not asking too much. I'm not a military person. I was not given the expectation that I would be in peril. So it is up to you to do what it takes to keep our teachers safe. And if we have safe teachers, we're going to have safe kids. Okay? I am deadly serious about this. I am not the type of person who comes and talks to the board. I've never done it before. But I could not keep quiet about Fred. I knew him. He was in my room. He's a dear man, and I know that you know that. But I want you to understand how drop-dead serious this is, okay? I really don't have a whole lot more to say, but it is up to you to support us and to keep your teachers and staff safe. Give them what they need, support. And each one of you knows that. So please, thank you for the job you do, and keep on doing it.
Okay. All right, and we'll go to
Elizabeth Mertz.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening. First of all, I want to acknowledge that there are fabulous things going on every day across Northside, right? We have fabulous opportunities. You guys have done a great job. But I do have a concern in the elementary level, and it's been weighing on me since the beginning of the year. And it has to do with some what I call outlier behavior. It's not your typical behavior that you would see, but we don't seem to have a system in place for outlier behavior at the early elementary education system. And so I noticed that there was something in regards to the vaping up on the website or up on the screen earlier. And so early in the year, what caught my attention at the beginning of the year was that vaping was a straight to alternative school the first time you were caught, but repeated assault and battery by an elementary school student as young as kindergarten and first grade must go through that tier process, and that it's to the detriment of the entire school community. Illegal drugs are just as illegal drugs, battery and assault, both. They're crimes, right? And so did the district consider how a young repeat offender of an abuser is impacting the classmates, his victim, the other victims that are in that community around him, when they decided to focus on vaping going straight to alternative school? So like I said, this is an outlier, but it is a big concern. Trying to get that outlier behavior destroys a classroom. Has children not wanting to come to school. Thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you. Okay, good. I will clarify, because we're not going to have discussion, but the vaping actually came from a legislative side of the House. And yeah, that's fine. I know, that's fine. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay?
Next, we have Ophelia Sanchez Flores.
Well, this is my first time at a board meeting, and I've got to tell you, I really enjoyed listening to all the wonderful things Northside does. I think we do a really good job at a lot of things. But just like we do things that are good, there are things that I feel that we don't do very well. And that has to do with ensuring staff safety, number one, and number two, taking care of staff once they have been injured. And I can speak to that personally. You see, a year ago in October, I was interacting with a student in a self-contained setting, and we were dealing with helping the student be able to take accountability for his behavior. And the student decided that he would hit me in the face so hard that within 24 hours of that hit, I forgot how to do my morning routine. I forgot how to brush my teeth. I couldn't drive. I had to have my husband drive me. Yet, the people at Texas Med Clinic saw fit to send me back to work on light duty, and the expectation that was placed before me was go ahead and sit there and run small group instruction with special ed students. So is that a realistic expectation that Northside and the board has for our teachers that are injured? I want you to really consider that. Because when was the last time any of you were hit by a student, given a concussion, and expected to come in and work in full capacity and do your job? Is that a reasonable expectation? And then later on to find out, have the same student throw a chair at me, injure my hand, have to have my hand wrapped up, and be told by the Texas Med Clinic doctor, no, I think you need to take 3 days off, and then have the medical director come back and say, oh no, we're not allowed to give you time off Because as long as you're breathing and walking and talking, it doesn't matter how much pain you're in. You need to go back to work. I just want Northside to consider, number one, how do we ensure safety for our staff? Because what's good for kids is having safe staff. If you have safe staff, then you're going to have good teachers. That's number one. Number two, when a staff gets injured, there's assault leave, right? Teachers should know about that, and the district should honor it. But number two, how do we take care of our teachers? Because guess what? If you hit me, I'm going to hurt. If you cut me, I bleed. And part of the whole mental health is if I'm hurt, I need an opportunity to recover. I need an opportunity to get better. And I can't do that unless you guys set the precedent for that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Next, we have Lana Taylor.
My name is Lana Taylor. I'm a teacher here at Northside. I've been here for 10 years, but I've been teaching for 20 years. All that time, I've been in AAU or ALE units. And in that time, I've come to realize that we are not protected. The staff is not protected. The district, I don't know if they know, this is what is given to us, to each unit, to keep us safe. Nothing, we don't have padded jackets. We don't have padded arm covers. We don't have face coverings. We don't have gloves issued to us to keep these scars from happening. I live with this every day, these scars. Every time I drive, I look at my hands, that's my life. And I teach because I love to teach. I'm still a teacher in special ed because of that one small moment when that special ed student of mine goes to the bathroom by himself. I'm excited for that. And that's my goal. That was his goal, for him to go to the bathroom by himself. And the rest of it, of me getting beat, and me being scratched, of me being tossed up against a bus, that falls behind me, because at that moment that student reaches that goal or does that activity, I'm elated. I had to go out and buy myself gloves to keep my hands from being scarred anymore. I had to go out and buy a face shield to keep my face from being scratched and abused. Because I could take all the physical abuse from the neck down, but don't touch my face. And that's the first thing this young man did to me. I have pictures of myself and my abuse that I sustained for 2 months before the district and all the specialists decided that this young man was not in the appropriate setting, that he needed to be in another area that suited him best. But meanwhile, myself and the other students had to witness, they witnessed me getting hit. They witnessed the other adults in the classroom getting abused before I can move them out to a safe area and come back in that room and be in there with that student because he could not be by himself. That shouldn't happen. And I was not told about this assault leave. I was not counseled to go to a therapist because I know I have PTSD. When somebody's coming up behind me, I automatically am going to protect myself. I'm not going to lash out and hit anybody, but I'm not going to let anybody hit me. I've taken that training, NCI. That is all good and well for little children. But when you have middle school kids, high school kids that are taller than you, bigger than you, and they're going to try to and do what they're going to do to you and actually kill somebody, finally, that's bringing the attention to the board. I'm sorry, that's not enough for me. And if you want to see my pictures, I do have them.
Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Zablocki.
Don't start the time yet. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you. I'm sorry. Point of personal privilege. Don't take it back.
Okay, go ahead, Terry.
And please, okay, fix that. February 7th at noon, I was attempting to vacuum, and I had the TV on, And gosh darn it, it's taken me the 20 days since February 7th when there was a news report that came across. Somehow there was a picture of someone. There was, I turned it off. I heard Atascosa County, and I didn't understand how someone associated with Northside was in Atascosa County. I went, got online, and read the statement that had been issued by the person that was featured in that. And the statement, for those of us, I'm retired from Northside, for those of us who've ever gone through training and those of you in TASB sessions, you know what the buzzwords are, right? I am fully committed. I am going to use this as an opportunity. I mean, I read the statements, and I'm here tonight to ask you to follow BCF, a new policy created for all of us. The policy is basic communication fidelity. It's why NCN was established. It's the idea that if we can't talk to each other on a one-to-one basis when we have significant differences, if I can't speak to you, if you don't make eye contact with me, if you don't respond to me, I am forced to come as a citizen to be heard. And that does not help all of us who are all together. If you're in this room, you are here to make a positive difference for students. You are here. There were those of us who in 40-degree weather, thank goodness for the Rivard report, we stood there and the wind chill was 25 miles per hour. So it was not 40 degrees at the cricket club, okay? I was at Library Palooza, and that Library Palooza is the best thing that happened to me because the adults had gone with the authors to the room. And you know what happened? It was completely by chance. My faith was restored. There was a drawing, and it was a drawing for someone had donated books from their passing, okay? And the student's name, and I don't know if the student who put the name in, if this was a made-up name or whatever, and I want you all to hold this in our hearts when we go through what we're going to go through, okay? The student's name was Heavenly Story. The students are why we are here, and if an adult in any way, shape, or form detracts from that, then it is incumbent upon the team of 8 to take action. BCF, basic communication fidelity. One-on-one communication where you listen to me and we work it out. And I'm confident we have adults in the room who could do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Christina Garcia.
Hi, good evening. Just to touch on what someone had said, I'm actually an elementary special education teacher who was trained in safety care instead of NCI because our campus ended up taking on the students that they brought from Home Green to our campus as a RISE unit. And so it's only Home Green and our campus who have safety care training. I would really love to propose that safety care be carried out through elementary, middle school, and high school, just because it's way more proactive when it comes to those lessening those behaviors and trying to catch them before and be proactive versus having to react to them. So anyways, going on. I am a Northside special education teacher of an ALE self-contained unit. I am speaking on behalf of special education teachers and instructional assistants. I have heard on the news and in articles about the teacher shortages, especially in special education. I had assumed that maybe a handful of campuses were impacted the way my campus continues to be, but the recent tragedy at Brandeis High School hit way too close to home. That's when I realized it isn't just a campus or staffing issue. It's a Northside and Texas issue. This year, my instructional assistant has been left alone with my unit students for the entirety of my luncheon conference numerous times. Okay, that's over an hour alone with students who all of which have behavior plans and most display aggressive behaviors on a daily basis. There were also all those times a sub was placed in my room in my stead because my campus was short-staffed and missing 2 out of our 3 collab teacher positions. I was made case manager and responsible for 13 additional special education students across 3 separate collab classes, on top of my current responsibilities of being a teacher of record and a special education teacher for my unit.
This was not sustainable, yet it continued for nearly 4 months. I was not compensated for the extra work or time spent working outside of contract hours in order to meet these new expectations. I tried my best for the kids. It isn't their fault we're short-staffed, but my personal relationships, home life, and mental health suffered. I was so close to quitting numerous times this year. You need to reevaluate the number of teachers to staff ratios in special education. Realize that you can continue to give stipends for hiring and retaining teachers, but if you continue to exploit and undervalue us, we will continue to leave. I want a safe environment for my students, my assistant, and myself. I want to be valued and not taken advantage of. Please, please consider this. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Megan Chitwood.
You're good. You can go ahead.
I know, I'm short, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Megan Chitwood. I teach at Mead Elementary, 10 minutes down the road. This is my first year at Mead, but my 4th year overall. I am Kinder ESL collab with newcomers. I say collab because I only have one diagnosed friend with 30 minutes of support a day. And as a caveat, my admin has been awesome. They've been as kind and helpful as they can, but I absolutely agree with Northside AFT that it should be standard for more training and de-escalation, et cetera, higher pay to retain and even have IAs in general. Mental health support for students and staff, which I've found compared to my old district, very inaccessible, and just a lack of it in general, and especially safety protocols for individual classroom needs. I began the year with over 6 undiagnosed friends who had Down syndrome, nonverbal, in diapers, no restroom in my class, no IA. I had one in a wheelchair, nonverbal and blind, with no one-to-one. And we had to move her because of safety concerns. My kids, I'm sorry. There would be hitting, chasing around the room, spitting, punching, kicking, throwing, biting with wounds, screaming, crying meltdowns for up to hours per day, every day for months. I was attacked and preventing kids from being attacked every single day. I got to the point where it would be, like I said, hours of meltdowns every day, where I'd have to rock on the floor singing to my friend while he's crying and getting slobber and boogers all over me, and singing his songs that he liked. I had to have all of my computer and all of my stuff up on shelves. They could not have anything that would be considered like could hurt someone or that they could eat, because they would eat non-food objects and then destroy things when I tried to take it away from them. And they did try to throw whoever at me that they could to help me, but everywhere is short-staffed. We don't even have enough IAs to man the positions that we do have. So often I would be alone with 7 runners, and by myself. I had to be driven to the ER one day for heart palpitations, and ended up being that I need a vacation and less stress in my life. Every day was so fight or flight. My heart rate would go up into the 180s. Chasing kids, being hurt, preventing. I would have to barricade myself with a table to prevent this kid from attacking me like he would every time I spoke to him at a certain point in time. I have multiple scars, and my students have multiple scars from kids who would attack unprovoked and randomly. I've been punched in the face. I've had my glasses kicked off of my face. Just from January and February, I have scars on both of my arms, and you can see his finger marks and the bite mark on my arm from 2 separate kids. I've had a chunk of hair bitten out of my head because I prevented him from biting my arm. Like a couple weeks ago, we would have to even have someone, when I would get help, hold him back. And I know that I teach kinder, but I'm not a very big person, and I've lost 10 to 15 pounds since the beginning of the school year because of everything. And he would bite, hit, pinch, kick. I would have bruises on me, spit on me, try to knock me over when I would take my arms away, until I was hospitalized for a different reason, and I said, I can't be hurt anymore. And that's the way that my last friend got removed. Everyone on campus knows me in my class.
I'm sorry. We do. Yeah, you go ahead. We do have to have you wrap up, though. But
and I wanted to say, I just feel bad for my friends, for my kids, you know, and things have been worked out over time. But like I said, the individual needs for classes, especially with undiagnosed friends, is very lacking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Brandy Mendoza.
I'm going to try to do this without crying, and I'm already crying. I don't need anything up here. I don't need anything, because I can tell you what I have endured. When I saw Fred on the news, my heart broke. Not only did I work with him and have good times with him, but I have been attacked. I have had, you can look, scars, just like all of these people here. Scars. But the biggest scar and the hardest scar is the one that goes from my sternum to my pubic bone. And that is because a student hit me repeatedly and nothing was done. Med Clinic sent me home. I have a bleeding disorder. I was told, you got beat up, your stomach's going to hurt. 3 days later, I am in a hospital in the emergency room waiting for an ambulance to take me to a different hospital emergency room to have exploratory surgery for 4 hours to find out what the child did to me. Internal bleeding. To go through that is one thing. My family being told, we'll try not to give her a colostomy bag. I had a 4-year-old at that time. He is now 9. We both suffer from extreme PTSD. I see the scar every single day. My child, when I come home from work, are you okay, Mommy? Did anybody hurt you today, Mommy? When I came home from the hospital and I was stapled shut, his exact words, Mommy, I'm sorry you're broken now. How do I love you? I had to tell my 4-year-old he had to sit next to me and barely hug me to give me any love. This is ridiculous. That story on the news with Fred could have been me, because in that 4-hour surgery, my mother was told that twice they had to revive me. That is ridiculous. Special needs teachers need the support. They need the love that y'all care. My admin talked down to me. They said it didn't happen, and then when they could prove that it happened, it was my fault. I stepped in front of that child to save another child from having her life beat out of her. And yet here I stand, wondering, when is it going to stop? And I have pictures too.
Shree Cruzel.
I'm old. I'm not like Brandy. She's young. She doesn't need notes. I am a very proud Northside graduate. My son's graduated from Northside. I've been a spec ed teacher for 32 years, 15 in the ALE unit, and I too have lots of pictures. We should get together and do a book or something. I don't know. Lots of pictures of injuries. Fred was my IA. I loved him dearly. He was awesome. I worked with him for 5 years, but then I've been friends with him the rest of this time. He didn't deserve what happened to him. He went to work that morning, said goodbye to his wife, thinking he would come home, and he didn't. It's not right. There is a GoFundMe account, scholarship for him. It's under Fred Jimenez, Mr. Fred. If anybody would like to donate, it is out there. I want to do a scholarship for IAs in his memory. I think that would be a great way to honor him. I've never told my story before. A lot of people in this room know my story because I have a long story with Northside. I love Northside. I've always gotten support from my school, so I don't want to say anything bad about my admin because they love me, I love them. They know I love what I do. I love my students. I love them inside the classroom. Outside the classroom, I'm very involved in their community and do lots of things with them. But Northside always looks at the numbers in the special ed, special needs classroom. They don't look at the severity of the students. They don't look if they're aggressive. They don't look if they have to be fed, if they have to be pottied. They only look at the number in the classroom. Always. I can tell you that throughout my whole career, that's what they do. If they think you have too many helpers in your classroom, they take them out in the middle of the year. They take them out. Something needs to change. I too have had so many injuries that I don't even want to go into it. It's just very serious injuries. I'm surprised I can stand here and talk with a civil mind, but I can. But I just want to say I love my students. I love my job. My family wants me to walk away and retire because I'm so old, but I don't want to because I love it. It's hard for me to walk away and leave. The other thing I want to say real quick, because I know my time's getting up, STAR for my students. Seriously, they have to take the regular STAR this year, guys. It's horrible for them. Talk about behaviors. They are going to have massive behaviors. They're not even taught those TEKs. We're taught, I teach them prerequisites, and now they have to take this regular STAR. It's like my campus is letting me do my students, but they're going to have behaviors. I know. I love red. I love red. It's my favorite color. But really, that's the other thing. STAR for these students, it's going to cause massive behaviors. It is. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you want to see my pictures, they're not pretty.
Okay.
I believe that's all we have signed up for citizens to be heard, and then we have 2 signed up for 8C. Okay.
See, we had so board. We have a request to, and we're taking a look to sort of suspend our rules for what may be a valid reason for. Is it 2 that one is it the same subject or? And just to make sure, and it is related to board policy or procedure. It's not because I see the top. Okay. No names. No. And it's board. Okay. Okay. So it's up to the. Let me see what the board thinks. We have 2 that just, I think, for a valid reason, that do want to speak, and if the board's okay with suspending, we can allow. Okay. So we'll. Can you let us when you come up and announce your name for the record? And oh, I'm sorry. Were you here for the rules? You got 3 minutes?
Yes.
2 minutes. Okay, good. Okay.
Sorry, I was a little late. I was at bus duty, but I'm here. So good evening, everybody. My name's Alora Martinez. I'm a product of Northside and attended Northside schools from kindergarten in 2003 all the way to my high school graduation in 2016 from Brennan. I loved school. I was a very involved student. I even played for the Dragon Soccer Club. I saw you there multiple times. Needless to say, Northside played a huge part in shaping who I am today and influenced my future. I'm happy to say that I've come full circle and now work for Northside as a special education ALE teacher at Brandeis High School. As a special education teacher, my foremost duty is to ensure the safety and well-being of all my students. However, I come to you today to shed light on a grave issue that has been plaguing our educational environment, as so many of these veteran teachers have done. On multiple occasions, and this is only my 2nd year, mind you, on multiple occasions I have been subjected to violent attacks by one of the students in the ALE program. One of these attacks even rendered me unconscious, concussed, and in need of immediate medical attention. Despite diligent efforts to address these incidents through proper channels, I am disheartened to report that the only action taken thus far has been the suspension of the student for 2 days and my relocation to a different classroom 2 doors down. While I appreciate the immediate response, these measures fall drastically short of adequately addressing the root cause of the issue. Merely relocating classrooms and issuing suspension fails to provide a comprehensive solution to ensure the safety of staff. In addition to prioritizing the educational and safety needs of my students, I now find myself having to be vigilant about concealing my presence from the particular student to mitigate the risk of further confrontation or physical harm. I urge the board to recognize the severity of this situation and take decisive action to implement more robust measures for preventing and addressing such incidents. It is imperative that we foster an environment where both educators and students feel secure and supported in our learning environment. I implore you to work collaboratively towards a solution that prioritizes the safety and well-being of all members of our educational community. And Mr. Jimenez, I just want to say, was not only my colleague, he was one of the IAs in my classroom this year and one of my best friends. So thank you for your attention and letting me speak tonight.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Kraft, ladies and gentlemen, trustees. My name's Jerry Boucher. I am also a product of Northside. I went to Sul Ross Middle School and Holmes High School, class of '86, a little out there. I've been teaching for 10 years, 7 with Northside. I spent 2 years at Home Green before moving to Brandeis, so I have experienced those kids with the severe behavioral disorders, and I've been kicked, scratched, beaten, where I've had hepatitis shots because I was bit in the head. But, you know, I'm a veteran, and I knew that going into this, I was also explained this is what the job entails, and I just accepted it, you know, because I love the kids, and that's the way the kids were there. I moved to Brandeis thinking, you know, they'd probably have the same issues, but it wouldn't be as bad. And it wasn't too bad, but at Home Green, we were always told the students were there because of severe behavioral disorders. If they were a danger to themselves or others, they're there for that reason. So currently at Brandeis, we have students that should be at Home Green, according to what I was told, but are not. They assaulted staff at other campuses, and for some reason or another, were given the chance to come to Brandeis even after they had that assault. And they've caused further injury to staff and students. One student from another campus was sent to Brandeis for assaulting the staff there, and in the 2 years that I've been there, has assaulted 4 other staff members and myself. He's been suspended, but has come back. And like I said, with my experience being from Home Green, he is the perfect candidate for Home Green. But from what I was told that he's only got a few months left till he graduates, so we can write it out. And he fits the perfect criteria for Home Green, but they said he was, the parents were given the choice. In this matter, the parents should not be given the choice. If he fits the criteria for Home Green and he's assaulted these people, he needs to be put into Home Green. We have recently seen what can happen when a student like that is left in place because we are afraid of the word litigation from parents. It should not be a choice where and when the student should go. Students should have a right to be safe. Shouldn't staff also? Also, I had Fred as my IA first period and 7th period, and what makes it even harder and makes me numb is we lost a student also the week after Fred had his injury from a surgery he never recovered from. So we've been going through a lot, and that student was also in my 1st and 7th period, so it's just been really rough. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay. That does complete our citizens to be heard portion. And for those that may be their first time at a board meeting, just to try to make a sort of a smoother transition before we go further on to our next agenda item is, you know, our board can't address, I hope everybody knows that. There's very good reasons why, but we definitely hear. I want everybody to know that per se, but I do want you to understand that part of it, okay? Okay, so board, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over to our next agenda item, which is our consent agenda. Trustee Harrell?
I move that we approve the items that are on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, it's been moved and second that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Great, motion carries. Okay, so next we'll go over to our business and finance area.
Yes, sir.
Dr.
Mr.
Kraft.
President, members of the board, we want to go ahead and bring in budget amendment number 2, which is the most recent reflection of the SHARS expenditure, or excuse me, reimbursable expenses that we're anticipating. So we are anticipating increasing the deficit budget for fiscal year 24. I'll let Dr. Bras explain what is included in budget amendment 2. Again, this is not to be confused with year-end audited. We're tracking ADA. In fact, the last board newsletter, weekly update, we published ADA across the district, across the campuses. So, like I say, at this point, I will still say I feel pretty good with where we are from a budget standpoint. We are, like I say, anticipating a deficit budget as board approved earlier this year, but I'll let, like I say, Dr. Bras discuss a little bit more in detail budget amendment number 2 that's being proposed this evening.
The items that included in budget amendment 2 have already been discussed with the board, especially the reduction in the SHARS revenue that we covered at the finance committee, and we also covered at a previous board meeting. We had originally intended to perhaps recognize half in BA number 2 with the other half in BA number 3 at some time later in the year, but because the board has already been briefed on this and because we have decided not to appeal, we are recognizing the full reduction in SHARS in revenue. On the other side of that same coin, the budget coin, we are recognizing expenses related to the scoreboards and the golf facilities, as well as an increase for our property casualty insurance. So all of that put together has increased the current deficit to just over $50 million for this year.
All right. Is there any discussion? Or, Trustee Hart, was that from earlier? Or is that? Okay. Okay. Any comments, questions? But as stated, I know we've gone through this on several occasions. Go ahead, Trustee Lopez. Thank you.
Yeah, we did go, I'm sorry. We did review this, and, yeah, we did review this, and in our facility, in our finance meeting. So I move that we approve the budget amendment number 2.
Okay.
As presented by staff.
All right, motion, and we have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? It's been moved and second that we approve budget amendment 2 as presented. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Okay. Motion carries. Good, thank you, well done. All right, so now we'll go over to our administration area, review of our legal policy.
Yes, sir. At this point, I'd like to call Ms. Rosti to the podium, Mr. Blunt, Dr. Kraft, trustees. And as we've done in the past, she'll address both items A and B, A being legal policies for your information, and then B, more of a discussion in terms of the local policies. Both of these have obviously been brought to policy, and so bring them to you tonight. So, Ms. Rosti?
Thank you. So item A, review of legal policies, will be really quick unless you want to go through them all. It's this huge stack of updates from all of the legislative sessions we had last year. So just as kind of a reminder, school boards do not adopt legal policy, but we review them thoroughly to impact our local policy decisions. The bulk of what is in here we've been through many times since the end of the regular legislative session. So updates from House Bill 3, the school safety bill, as well as some curriculum and instruction changes, and some cleanup bills that helped revisit items that were lingering from past sessions. So no specifics to cover, just kind of a reminder that that school boards do not adopt legal policy. So we can jump right into the local policy. I think there's about a dozen updates that we'll go through tonight. And this should be probably fairly quick. Most of it is conforming language, just to update and tweak a few things post-legislative session. So the first one is CQB. The only change in this existing policy is the addition of a security incident. So we've had this CQB as a local policy for quite some time, but because of Senate Bill 271, if you're looking at the updated policy in front of you, you'll see towards the bottom there's just one line that's added that says, upon discovering or receiving notification of a breach of system, security, or a security incident, the district shall disclose the breach or the incident to the affected persons in accordance with the timeframes established by law. So really nothing changes here except for the addition of security incident. And you can see what the definition of that is right up ahead. Any questions on this one? This is a pretty simple tweak. Okay. The next one is CSA. This is a brand new local policy for us that is prompted by addition of administrative code. So this addresses something that we already have in practice, which Mr. Galindo can probably expand on. But this talks to our audits of building access control. And it specifies, which is already part of our practice, that that the school district and campus cannot interfere with parents or discourage parents from attending the campus if they've been properly vetted. So I don't know if Mr. Galindo, if you have any additional details. Nothing new in here for us.
No, other than what we discussed in policy, which obviously we've reported that and have everything in practice that we've been doing that for quite some time.
We do have a question from Trustee Lopez.
So can you repeat that one more time, that an administrator or campus cannot restrict a parent from entering the classroom?
Yeah, let me read directly from here. So the policy states that the district's building access control procedures shall not be interpreted as discouraging parents or guardians who have been properly verified and authorized or as authorized visitors from visiting their student's campus.
Okay. So would that consider maybe like a shutdown or a lockdown? Would that be considered something where they would?
That's different for entry to the building?
Yeah, for entry into the building. Could that be confused in any way for that? You know, in that.
I would defer to Mr. Galindo on that.
I think Mr. Lopez, what we're talking about here, and certainly we've had this in practice for quite some time, which is securing our buildings. And so any visitor needs to come in, present their credentials, be allowed to come in, state the reason and so forth. If they have a scheduled visit, obviously go ahead and permit that to occur. And so we've had that in place for quite some time, and certainly want to still be welcoming, but also have some level of security in place, which, again, we've done for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess maybe I'm talking about something else. So like, let's say in the event of a shutdown and a parent has access to, has gone through the standard procedures of has gone through, has had their card, run through the system, and they want to take their child home from school, is that still allowed? Is that even if it's still a security?
If we're in a
that wouldn't be a scenario that could occur at all?
If we're in a secured status, then that's what we used to call a modified lockdown. So
Okay.
if that's what you're referring to,
Right.
then no, they will not be allowed until police allow entry into the building. And so we are basically have all the exterior doors locked until we've been cleared.
And furthermore, if there are parents that are actually in the building, the interior of the building, we'll also be helping them with lockdown protocol. So in the event that we are truly in a campus lockdown, there won't be movement in and about the campus. We won't be releasing students, and we won't be allowing parents mobility through the campus. It will be a very stationary drill.
My understanding of that provision was to balance a lot of the new security updates that we've had. We heard from concerned parents and from lawmakers and from trustees about trying to balance keeping the campus secure, but also keeping that welcoming environment. So it was, my understanding is the language was to demonstrate that, yes, we already have these items in practice in Northside. School districts who were responding and changing things in response to some of the laws last year, we're seeing new policies and procedures put in place, but are trying to make the point clear that parents are still welcome during appropriate times. And if they're
Okay.
So I think, can I follow you through a little bit? Sure. All right. I think if I can state also, I think where Trustee Lopez is going, it got me thinking too. Do we have another policy that addresses that, hey, if you have to follow law enforcement's instruction? That's what I think you're sort of getting at. Is that covered somewhere else?
I'm not sure I understand your question. So
Like a different policy.
Different
for-
policy that talks about what you just stated, for example?
I
that they-
I don't know if there's a specific policy, Mr. Blunt, where we certainly have our practices and regs that we've had in place for a number of years.
The reason why I bring it up, it may be something we may want to look at, though.
Perhaps.
That way, if parents look at this, they'll see that one too, that, hey, reference this.
Right.
Both sides of it. Okay.
Coincidentally, we do have a visitor policy that we'll be speaking to later, but that does not address, I think, what you're focusing on.
Okay.
Make a note of that. Are there any other questions on this policy?
Trustee Freeman?
Yeah, just one thing, and I'm trying to pull it up right now, and it's slow going here. It does say on our board agenda, it says CGKC local regarding visitors, and that may have just, let's look at that too to see if that addresses the question. Again, I'm trying to pull it up. You can go on and I'll let you know if I find it.
Do you want to move on to the next
Oh,
one? Or
yeah,
any
go
other
right ahead.
questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
To the next policy? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Clicking that one. Okay, so DC local, related to employment practices. This one adds a footnote at the very bottom of page 1 that updates language to reference the specifics from House Bill 1789, which expanded an exception that used to exist for smaller school districts or school districts in smaller counties. It's expanded it to all school districts. So at this point, the nepotism exemption for bus drivers is now waived essentially for districts as large as Northside. So if a bus driver or someone who's applying to be a bus driver with the district is related to a board member or the superintendent, they are now exempt from the typical nepotism laws. So you'll see on that policy, it just adds a footnote to employment practices to remind you and to kind of highlight, well, hold on, it's different for bus drivers. That's what that footnote is for. Any questions on that one? Okay. EHB local. This one is kind of similar to the last one, just adding a footnote. There's an addition of one sentence to this very brief policy that states that the district shall comply with all rules and standards adopted by the State Board of Education, as well as guidance published by the Commissioner of Education to implement the program to test students for dyslexia and related disorders. So we already had this policy, and we already comply with rules and regs that are sent down from the State Board and also from TEA. However, House Bill 3928 requires the addition of this language in this local policy. That one's a pretty straightforward one. Any questions on that one? Okay, the next three, EHBC, let's see, EHBCA, and this might be out of order in your packet actually, and FL are all related to changes from House Bill 1416. So I'm afraid to say this House Bill number because I think it conjures up a lot of negative feelings from everyone in this room, but House Bill 4545 from a few sessions ago had to be cleaned up last year in our regular session. So the policy that you're looking at right now, EHBC, has a lot of redlined language that looks like it's being deleted. It's just being moved to a new policy code, EHBCA, so we're not losing any of that language. We're cleaning it up to kind of specify two different local policies to make it a little bit clearer. However, in the new one, which if you can just skip to the next one, Christina, EHBCA, while we're pulling language over from EHBC to make it a little bit clearer, there is a slight change because of that cleanup bill to 4545. We no longer have accelerated education committees, so that language was taken out and updated to reflect what the bill now requires, which is an accelerated education plan. So the majority of the language that you see if you flip forward to EHBCA is what we had previously, with the exception of that language changing to reflect we no longer have to have the committees. And I think we covered this one in depth in committee. There's one more. The next one is FL. This one has only changes of language to reflect that one word. Committee changes to plan. So a lot of cleanup in these policies. Any questions on those? Okay. FEA. This is one of the rare impacts of legislation that is discretionary for school boards. So this was a may, not a shall, from the legislature that school boards can adopt language in their local policy demonstrating that the district will excuse students in their junior and senior year for up to 2 days during each of those years for career investigation days. So in our policy committee meeting, the board members that were present wanted to bring this forward as something that we'd like to add to local policy. So this is an optional move for school boards in response to Senate Bill 68 from last year. There were a few, we talked about this in committee as well, there were other bills that were filed that would do something similar for other areas. One was mental health days, that some of those bills did not make it across the finish line. This one did.
And you have the proposed language in the policy too, so FEA local. And I get Trustee Saldana?
No, I was just going to say, when we discussed it, we all were in favor of it because now the CTE kids can get, quote, a college day. They can go to an organization that they want to follow, like the academic kids got a college day. Our CTE kids now get a day also.
Yeah, so if you look at the language that we have in FEA that we already had, you can see right at the top higher education visits that Trustee Saldana is referring to. It's very similar language. Those higher ed visits excuse a student for up to 2 days during the same junior and senior year to visit an accredited institution of higher ed. This is on the other side, the workforce side, career investigation.
Trustee Harrell? No. Okay, you good?
And that's the only change to that one. Any questions on this one? Okay. Let's see. FFAC. So this one was prompted by another Senate Bill, 629. This is something that Northside already has in practice. The bill added language to address maintenance, administration, and disposal of opioid antagonists, or Narcan and similar products, at each campus that serves students in grades 6 through 12. So the language added here reflects provisions from Senate Bill 629. This is something that we have already on our secondary campuses. Any questions on this one? Okay. Oh. Yes.
Cancel.
Okay, FFB. This was a response to a couple of bills. This adds language, and this is also another example of something that we have in practice already, but the local policy language is being reflected on paper. So this adds language requiring each campus to establish a clear process for students to report concerning behavior by another student, and also adds a provision allowing employees to report potential threats, allows them to keep their identity confidential.
Trustee Freeman?
It was about something else, but I was going to wait to the end to ask it, but I'll go ahead and do it now. Under the previous policy that we were looking at, it addresses the provision applied to grades 6 through 12. We asked a question at that if we had that opportunity at our elementary schools.
We have actually we have our expert here, Ms. Libby, as far as if we have Narcan, I guess it would be at the elementary schools available. We know we have 6 through 12 covered.
I don't feel like I can.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. Our nurses,
Yeah.
Mary Garcia would better know that. I can find out the
I did reach out to her, and I believe that I have a response sitting in my inbox. If you let me run over and grab my phone, I can probably give you that answer.
Ms. Rusty, I don't think that that's necessary, but if we do, and it is our practice, should we revisit this policy and include that in there?
Yeah, we can definitely bring it back. Again, with local policy, we can adjust based on recommended changes. For some reason, I'm thinking we do have Narcan available in our school nurse's office at our elementary campuses, but we'll double check and follow up.
Yeah, if the board member, remember, this is just our first review.
Right.
Yeah, we're just discussing tonight. It comes back so we can inject other comments too. Okay.
Thank you.
So that is the end of local policy updates.
Good. So if once again, similar discussion now. First reading, we'll see these back next month, for possible approval. Anybody have any comments, questions, et cetera?
And we'll follow up,
Rusty is
like I
ready.
say, on the opioid antagonistic Narcan question before we bring these back on the March 26th meeting.
And the lockdown visitors, I'll pull that too.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you. Thank you again. So next we'll go to our discussion and review of Senate Bill 763, an existing GKG local policy. We have two citizens that are signed up to speak to this agenda item. If it's okay with the citizens, did you want to go after we give the report itself? So what we typically do is let our superintendent sort of and staff give a summary. Then we would have you speak, and then we'll have the board's comments and questions afterwards. Is that okay with the two citizens that are signed up? One? Okay. Where's the other one? That's me. Oh, that's you. Okay. Two. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. So we'll go ahead and Dr.
Yes, sir.
Kraft.
Okay, so I'm going to provide a little bit of context to begin with. As a result of the passage of Senate Bill 763, which is now written into Education Code under Chapter 23, all local boards across the state of Texas are required either to adopt a resolution and or take a vote as to whether or not we want to allow chaplains to volunteer and or be employed by the school district. So again, a resolution or a vote to implement a local policy. As we have reviewed local policies, and again, you obviously have the opportunity to dictate how local policies are not only written but also implemented across the district. We wanted to just bring your attention, which we included a copy of our volunteer policy, which is our existing GKG local policy. Like I say, I think you have that in your board docs for review. While we appreciate the work of chaplains, and we know that we have chaplains that serve in a voluntary basis, and we also appreciate our tremendously hardworking counselors, we believe that our local policy as written is sufficient to allow chaplains to continue to volunteer in a volunteer capacity. And of course, we do not discriminate in regards to employment practices, i.e. the ability to work for Northside ISD. In fact, I've mentioned earlier, with the number of employees, 13,000 plus, I would anticipate that we have numerous chaplains that are working currently for the district. And so, that being said, the administrative recommendation with this particular item is to not to look to adopt a specific policy to allow chaplains specifically to volunteer. We believe that they're well covered with our GKG local policy, nor a specific policy in regards to employment of chaplains at this time.
Okay. And if it's okay, unless any board member wants to ask a question now. If not, we're going to have the citizens, the two signed up. So is that okay? I know you, okay? All right. So same thing, remarks at the podium, we'll have 3 minutes, and
Barbara, I believe it's Baruch.
Good evening. I came here to speak in opposition to a paid, uncertified chaplain working for Northside ISD. But after hearing your report, I stand before you in support of your report and your proposed policy. In my own opinion, there are 3 people who should advise a student religiously. That is, the student's parents and the religious counselor they choose. I looked up the demographics of Northside before I came, and it lists 103,151 students. And I'm pretty sure that almost all of them have their own religious ideas, perhaps different than yours or mine. People in Texas formed governments for the public welfare, and Texans framed that government's protections in our long and much amended Constitution. I would point out Article 1, Section 6 of our Texas Constitution, which begins freedom of worship. It says men, all people have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. I also point out Section 7 of Article 1, which says no money shall be appropriated or drawn from the treasury for the benefit of any sect or religious society, theological or religious seminary, nor shall property belonging to the state be appropriated for any such purpose. The legislature that passed Senate Bill 763 knew of the prohibitions against spending government public money for the benefit of any sect. And because of that, the funding in Senate Bill 763, in the unlikely event that you take religious control from parents and give it to an uncertified paid chaplain, you would be taking money away from our school safety allotment and grants for school safety to pay for such chaplains. I don't think after what we heard tonight you want to do that. I have one more sentence. I urge you to leave religious counseling to our parents and the ministers selected by them. I urge you to keep your volunteer policy exactly as it has been set up to now and reject any changes suggested by Senate Bill 763. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Next, we have Melina Espirito Azacar.
Oh, yeah, you can say my first name. We'll just keep it there. Okay. It appears that, of course, we feel very positive that y'all are going to vote in a direction that protects our students. But SB 763 is dangerous to students, and it's most dangerous to our LGBTQ students, our students of color, our students in non-majority religious backgrounds. Nothing in the law requires chaplains to have the expertise to provide unbiased, adequate support for students. As a parent, an educator, and a union president, I'm fearful that a chaplain with no training would be dangerous for my child and for students in Northside. Chaplains employed or appointed to volunteer roles are not required to be certified by SBEC or be endorsed by any major entity. Currently, our school counselors have master's degrees. They go through rigorous training, state certifications to service our students. Our counselors provide service for our students, and that's enough. They're doing a great job, and we do not need and we do not want chaplains as school paid volunteers in Northside. I believe that our board will do what is right for students, and today I urge you to vote no for bringing in SB 763.
Good, good, thank you. All right, any board comments, questions? We had Dr. Harrell first.
Oh, no,
That was earlier, okay. Trustee Lopez?
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well, especially on this House bill. And Dr. Kraft, thank you very much for making that recommendation. And it makes a lot of sense. And while we do have a lot of other volunteers that volunteer in our campuses and throughout our district, I think this kind of would bring it's a little sensitive. It would be sensitive and just kind of, it would be kind of challenging. So I'm in agreement with that, with your recommendation. and in allowing our counselors who are certified and doing all those type necessary services or providing those services to our kids and in their need. I would move that we would maintain the current GKG local policy and not develop a new policy authorizing the district to specifically employ or accept as a volunteer chaplain provided under the Texas Education Code, Chapter 23.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Okay. Continuing discussion. Trustee Freeman?
Yeah, Mr. Blunt, I had the question. We did discuss this at policy, and regarding Senate Bill 763 and what it was actually asking us, or the requirement that it was asking us to do. It's very unusual to ask a board to not adopt a change to their policy. So with that, and I know that you were going to look into exactly what the requirement was because we talked around it, with Mr. Lopez's motion, does that cover what we need to do?
Actually, so a vote and or in the form of a resolution, the board has to, and I'll use the exact language, on or before March 1st, shall take a record vote on whether to adopt policy authorizing a campus of the district or school to employ or accept as a volunteer chaplain under Chapter 23 Education Code. So it
All
will
right.
cover the record vote.
So looks like the vote, we're being asked to not adopt the new policy, but okay.
All right. Trustee Duran? Maybe not?
No, I second that.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
Developing a new local policy.
All right. Any further discussion? Good. I thank the board for going through this process. We are in compliance with what was requested with the bill, and have had the discussion and consideration for our community, as has other parts of San Antonio. So it's been moved in second, as worded by Trustee Lopez. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed state nay. Good. Motion carries. Okay, so we move on to our next agenda item. Superintendent, future agenda items.
Yes, sir. So our next regular board meeting, as I mentioned earlier, will be March 26th. This meeting, we will be hosting the meeting at the Activity Center, the NAC. So we have numerous student recognitions, celebrations, and so a big portion of the meeting, probably the first hour, will be the recognition of students. We'll plan on bringing House Bill 3 goals that were recently reviewed in our academic committee. We'll bring back the TASB 122 updated policies, and like I say, we'll have the opioid antagonist question. We do have
got an answer.
Opioid antagonist Narcan at every elementary campus. I thought that was the case. Thank you for checking on that. But we'll bring that policy updated as well to be inclusive of elementary campuses for your consideration. And then Jim Lowry has recently switched attorney firms, so we'll bring a letter of engagement with his newest firm. He does a lot of our contract law, especially or counsel, especially with contracts, AIA documents, contracts, et cetera. So we'll bring that letter of engagement with the new firm that he's engaged with for your consideration as well. But again, that's March 26th at the NAC.
Good. All right. Trustee Sadanya?
Halftime, Brennan, 46.
What happened at the other game? What was the end of the other game?
The other game, Connor won.
Okay.
Okay, but what was the score? 66 to 52.
Okay, for the record. All right. Any other comments, questions, or future agenda items from the board? Okay. If not, then the Board of Trustees on February 27th, they give us time beginning at, how much time we need? We're going to go to the other area. We'll say 8:20 p.m. We'll convene in closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Government Code Sections 551, as identified, discussion to place on the items that were identified. Board of Trustees at 9:52. We'll convene back in open meeting. Action can take place on the items that are listed. Is there a motion to become before the board?
Mr. Blunt, I move that we approve the administrative appointments as discussed in executive session.
Okay, I have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Moved and second that we approve the administrative appointments as discussed in closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Great. The board ends this meeting at 9:53.
Thank you.